Okay, we should be live. Let me test it out here for a second. Yeah, okay, we're good, we're good. Sorry, I had a bit of a technical difficulty there, so a 1 minute delay. We'll have to be satisfied with that. Let me listen to myself. Yeah, good, we're good. So I discovered something amazing, which is I can decide to use my webcam's microphone instead of this one, so I don't have to have this crap here in my face. So later on, as the stream progresses, I'll go lazy, switch over. It's not as good audio, but it's better than the previous camera. We may do that, but in any case, thank you so much, everyone who is here. Quick one, I'll just explain. I want to open it up a bit, explore a bit of the watercolor and art journey. So basically, any question you may have about, progressing, learning, improving, the feelings that come with watercolor painting, the good, the bad, everything. I want to talk about it all. So I think that'll be really fun. And that's exactly what we'll do. And yeah, I have a few topics that I kind of wrote down just for fun, but we can again discuss whatever. Hey Marjorie, thank you for being here. Hopefully you're able to catch this live. Again, let me know if it's the email from the 10th of May. If it is, I replied, but maybe I missed a newer one. Hey Pam, thank you for being here. I can actually see your chats here. Buck, the best email address is Liron at Lironian. You can contact me there. Liron at lironian.com. That'll be the best place. Feel free to email me there. Adria, good morning. Jill's super live. Hey, happy you caught this live stream. Joy Super Teen, sub teacher, thank you for being here. Artistic Ran, hello, happy you made it. Tattoo Tank, hey, been a while. Hopefully all is good. Yeah, thank you so much. Everything is good here. You were busy. I guess. I think it's a good time whenever I hear people are busy, especially busy with work. I'm happy because it's good. It's good. It's the world is strange. So if you're able to, tons of I keep hearing all the time layoffs and crap. So I'm happy that for anyone who can work normally through these times. Hey John, how are you doing? Hope everything is well with you too, Chris. I remember your last name. That's a cool one. Persichetti. That's so cool. Probably with emphasis on the Persichetti. Hello, Liron. Tuning in from Delaware. I love being on this watercolor journey with you. You're the best. Thank you so much. Isabel. Hi from Ontario, Canada. Thank you for being here. Tazeen, how are you doing? Jill, hey. Hello to the frog too. Monica, hope you're doing well. Kelly, hope you're doing well. Yeah, so you can start letting in. I'm gonna go over pretty much all messages. Any questions you may have, feel free to simply raise them, and we'll start tackling them. Now, let me read a bit of what I wrote as possible topics. What makes for a great piece of art? So, and I would love to make it personal as possible. So, like, I don't think there's a lot of value in hypotheticals necessarily. I think if you actually want to work on something, then ask as personal of a question as you can. Like why a certain piece of art you made maybe didn't click or did click. Another topic: how skill is built, how significant skill really is. That's interesting. The creative vision and bringing it onto paper. We can also react to painting processes. That's fun. We haven't done that in a while. And whatever you want to talk about. So feel free to. Let's see what else is going on here. Kelly, good morning from Brazil. Super cool. I visited Brazil once. I was only in Rio de Janeiro. It was great. Such a beautiful... Man, the beach there is perfect. Adria, oops, I'm going to mute my phone. Just woke up and getting my day started. Virginia, USA, cool. Buck, I struggle with too much detail, and I also struggle with seeing the shapes. Too much detail, you mean when you see details and you just see too many of the details, you don't know what to include? Or do you paint too many details? Let me know. And yeah, seeing the shapes. You know what's interesting? This actually gets me thinking. Hey, John, hope you're doing well from Italy. Cool. Buck, this gets me thinking, I think in a way, I keep dropping this idea, possible idea, that maybe some of it is taste, right? It's not about right or wrong. There isn't a right or wrong way to do things. There isn't really an answer, but it's more about what you feel is the right thing at the moment in a very almost spontaneous way, aside from some basic skills, right? So the idea of reading shapes gets me thinking, how much of it is just the taste, because some people will notice certain shapes while others will notice different shapes. And I feel like a lot of it comes down to whatever you like and whatever you enjoy, not necessarily like the and it's so funny to say because shapes are very objective. You can measure literally how accurate you were or how inaccurate you were. But it gets me thinking about these kinds of things. So yeah, curious to hear more. Let me know. We'll get to it. Barbara, hey, just remember the live chat. Cool. Thank you for being here. Yeah, it's going to show on the screen. That's the best, I think. Instead of showing it in StreamYard, I think that's a bit of a better setup for now. The details slow me down too soon and I lose the flow. Yeah. So, a lot of it, so that really is almost a mental kind of mind game, where it's almost like knowing what to focus on when. And I can relate because I've experienced a few times in the past. I would focus on the smaller details a little too early. Now, you can actually focus on them very early and still get the impression perfect if you're fast enough and if you're aware enough of what you want to express. And maybe that's a skill in and of itself. But I feel like, if you feel like it slows you down, actually, I'm going to post a video tomorrow, a short one, with a process of trees and foliage, where I talk about how for trees and foliage, one of the common threads in the way I approach them is that I usually have a wash that covers everything up, because I know that if I don't do that, I run into the risk of starting to try and paint the leaves. And I've tried doing that before from a very aware and kind of deliberate place, and it usually just doesn't really work well for me. So that could also be an issue of just knowing when to focus on what, and if you're maybe even forcing yourself to get to the details a little too soon for your own process, So a few things to think about. I really think it's not about the technique. I think it's more about awareness and the things you notice. So maybe this is a couple of my cents that will help maybe spur something, Let me know how you feel about this. It's interesting. Mr. Mime, that's almost like Mr. Mime. That's cool. Hello there, Liron. Been following you for some days. Well, thank you so much. How many days? Let me know. Volker Waffenholz. Good afternoon from Cologne, Germany. That's a cool name. I love that. Joy Supertein. It would be great if you can throw some light on the step after the putting base colors, the rendering part. So yeah, that's when you actually turn things three-dimensional, right? When you start thinking in terms of more values. Let's say you do an underpainting. I like to get quite a lot done in the underpainting, depending on the scene. I sometimes love to just include tons there. But even if I just do a flat one, that's very much the definition of an underpainting. The rendering part, yeah. I think a lot of it will come down to the things you notice and the things you want to express. So very often there will be, for example, in a cityscape kind of scene, right? Very often I will have a specific rooftop or area of rooftops or areas of structure that has maybe strong colors or very interesting, and good morning, Lisa, very interesting colors. So then I know that's something I want to show. And then I ask myself, how can I show that better? And all of that happens, of course, subconsciously, but how can I show this better? So I end up using colors that will complement it or make that part pop more, That to me is how I think approach this step. I feel like the more I improve, the less thought goes into that step, and it becomes just about rendering. Like the actual action is just me sitting down, rendering with almost zero thought, if that makes sense, I hope that gives a nudge in the right direction. Feel free, everyone, to just write a follow-up, and we'll see where it goes. Gaga, when I put a layer of paint over a dry layer and try to blend the wet layer, when I put a layer of paint over a dry layer and try to blend, oops, it appeared on me, and try to blend the wet layer into a soft, seamless blend, but it turns into a hard line over the edge. Is it because of the paint or paper? How do I stop? How do I stop it from happening? So is the layer underneath, does it stay dry? If it stays dry and it's just a matter of blending on top of an existing layer can be a little more challenging. Ultimately, I don't think it's the fault of the paint or the paper, but it's more about the water to paint ratio. That's where I would look first. If it only happens over an existing layer of dry paint and you successfully do it just on clean paper, then it's a matter of water to paint ratio. That's what I think from my experience. Sometimes you need less water to smoothen out a shape over an existing dry shape or paint. Sometimes you need more. It depends a bit on the context. It's a little strange, so I would experiment with that. That's where I would look. Hopefully that helps. Pierre, hey, how are you doing? A terrible week of 4 hideous paintings. I hope yours has been better. Nice to see you. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. I have a couple of paintings I'll share with you. Just sketches, scribbles. It's probably already out on Instagram, actually. I think it's the post that I scheduled for today. Let me check, actually. Yeah, okay, it's out on Instagram. You can watch it later if you want to, or now. We're just talking. You can just listen. But yeah, I have them here. I'll show a bit more of the details, but this one's definitely a favorite of mine. I might have already shown it. I don't actually remember. Maybe in a previous live stream, not sure. Mike's driving me crazy. I don't know where to place it. Alexa, hi Liron. Hello everyone. I have a day off today, so can finally say proper hello. And also watch on a bigger screen, as I usually watch your lives on the phone while working. Oh, that's super cool. Yeah. So you're gonna see all the details. Hopefully you'll see my haircut. Hopefully it looks good. Okay, good. Thank you for being here, Alexa. Gabriel, what's up from sunny San Diego? Oh, that's fun. San Diego is beautiful. From what I've seen, I haven't been there, actually. Hey, Hillel, how are you doing? Happy holiday. Today's Shavuot, which literally translates to weeks. That's the name of the holiday. It's when the first of the crops... when you begin to enjoy them, basically. I think that's the gist of it. But mostly it became a cheese holiday. And I just now think, my skeptical mind now thinks that it's the dairy companies that have made that happen rather than a vegetable and fruit holiday. But yeah, it's a lot of food with cheese and milk and dairy products. Basically a nightmare of every lactose intolerant person. That's the main thing with this holiday. Buck, your last live demo on mapping shadow shapes is a really good place for me to start on seeing shapes. At least two values, dark and light, are established this way. Yeah, and you know what, Buck? The cool thing about that kind of a process is that it eliminates a lot of that confusion you mentioned about, being overwhelmed, tons of details, not knowing what the overall pattern of them is. When you start figuring out, okay, this is one big shape of shadow that maybe has a hole in it, right? And that's the entire shape. It becomes a lot easier to actually paint it, right? So I hope that makes sense. Sungun, hey, how are you doing? Isabella, hey Liron, hey everyone. Greetings from Poland. Thank you for being here. Jansart, good morning from Missouri, USA. Thank you so much. You didn't email me, right? Because I have 2 emails. Someone was having trouble logging into the course. I don't think it was you, though. But if it was, I sent you instructions. Hopefully you saw them. And if it's another Jan, then I hope you saw it too. John, Liron, I'm curious about your process of painting with instinct. I would love to know more, please, and how you're able to disregard technique, etc. The painting you produced the other day was fabulous. Thank you so much. Yeah, that was a complete mess of an experiment. I refer to this one, right? Yeah, that was a big kind of mess. So the thing about instinct is that it can't be done consciously, right? As soon as you try and do instinct, it's a contradiction. It's a complete contradiction. Instinct is not doing, really. It's more about being. So to keep this earth level, because I believe this is a very practical idea, I think painting using instinct or making any type of art using instinct is more about removing the unnecessary interferences as opposed to doing or learning something. So a lot of what I believe makes art just beautiful and fun to look at comes from that place of there was very little interference in the artist's mind as to what they wanted to achieve and then how they gone and achieved it. And so interference can be anything from thoughts about, anything else that's not the art at hand, thoughts about the art at hand, that's interference, thinking about how the painting will be perceived by the people who will see it, that's big interference. All of these things are just interference. And actually, let me make the chat window larger, because why not? I mean, there's space here. Like this. Wait. Oh, I can't actually. Yeah, I'll have to do it differently. Any of those things is interference. So honing that instinct is really more about minimizing and removing as many interferences as possible. Now, it's also a bit tricky because how you do that, it's not as clear. It's again not really a doing. I would say awareness is the beginning of that path. So as soon as you find yourself in a recurring manner being burdened by specific thoughts about anything, and it keeps happening, once you catch that happening, then you have a prayer of moving forward. So if you constantly think about, which is a common thing, about how will people perceive this art, and I want to create something that people will like. And it can come from good intentions, not even from, a negative ego kind of thing of preserving my own identity as a successful artist. It can come from the place of, I really want to provide a piece of art that others will enjoy. But as soon as you try to pander to critics, it ends up ruining the clean flow of artistic result. So I would say that's a good place to start. Noticing what comes up as you paint. Now, if you're completely captured in the moment and you're just fully in it, then you're at a good place to utilize instinct. That's exactly where it is. And I will say, John, specifically for you, some of your pieces that are more on the imaginative, colorful side really spoke to me in that way. And even hearing that kind of a thing, as soon as you sit down and paint and you tell yourself, that's what I want to achieve that again, you have a goal. It may be blasphemous to some, but I think that's exactly the interference, that goal. And everyone tells you, set clear goals, know what you want. Maybe for very practical things, if you're trying to save money, do all sorts of things like that, maybe a practical goal helps. But I think when it comes to art, goals in the end can destroy. To tell you it's 100% of the time, no. There's a lot of nuance there. It depends on you, what you're trying to achieve, where you're at, how you look at goals. It depends on a lot of things. But if you have a certain goal in mind when you sit down and paint, you know what? It's not negative to have a goal. It's not bad. It's not incorrect. It's just about cause and effect. So the effect of sitting down with a goal is probably no access to instinct. Probably. Maybe not for everyone. Don't believe it? Test it out, right? That's at least my 2 cents on that. But I will say again, on a very personal note, because the most important person in this discussion is you, because usually people ask questions that pertain to their life. I think those paintings show me a lot of that. So I'm not saying go with the goal of recreating that at all, but I'm saying that's an interesting place to examine. What I love about these kinds of sketches that I just showed you, these small, fun things, is that I'm able to sit down and be goalless, right? Be mindless and just create them, Refinement can come later. I would argue that that's more important than refinement. Again, there is some basic skill, right? You learn the basics of watercolor. That's a part of it. Past a certain point, I think it's about honing that. So I hope that makes sense. That's a good question. Thank you so much for giving me the chance to talk about that, because it's something I mentioned a lot lately. Steve, afternoon, Liron. Hoping the iPad will let me watch this in the screen corner while I write up today's paintings. Oh, that's cool. What do you mean by writing up today's paintings? Let me know. Yeah, it's tricky, with the YouTube app. They just didn't make it right. I mean, that's on purpose, but yeah, you can't listen to stuff and multitask really well. But maybe you can. Maybe you have a setup that you can. Marjorie, have you changed the address from the last email from last year? Now painting. Okay. I'm not sure. So the address I sent you. Oh, I see now. Okay. My apologies. I got it now, Marjorie, and the answer is no. The address I gave you, I sent you the email back in August 2022. The address is correct. I'm gonna actually reply right now from a different email address, but you'll still see it. The address above is correct. And I'll retype it just in case. Look at me sending emails as I doing a live stream. But yeah, that one's correct. Sorry about that. I had a misunderstanding. Sorry. Now I know what you meant. Brenda, hi Liron, hi everyone. Sending best wishes from Australia. Yeah, I knew immediately before I read the Australia, thanks to the kangaroo. Tete Tank, are you going to do any plein air this year? I've been doing a lot of urban sketching with my watercolors. I'm really enjoying it, but the change of lighting is a struggle. Any advice? Yeah, that's a very practical question, actually. Very straightforward answer as well. First off, hopefully I will do some plein air. I don't have any concrete plans, but I feel like inspiration will sweep me in that direction at some point. And as for the light changing, as soon as I find a scene I like, I immediately take a photo on my phone, as simple as that, so that at least I can revisit it to see the pattern, the direction where light came from. This will actually help you with composition too, because it's easier to see things on a two-dimensional screen. So you get an added benefit there. That's exactly what I do. I take a picture, I do my best, to work fast. I paint relatively fast, even in the studio, outside. I'm a fast painter. I've always been this way. I'm a fast sketcher too. It's my go-to, kind of my natural state of being. I don't try to fight against it too much. But yeah, that's how I do it. Take a picture and then refer to it just for the light and shadow. I still look at the scene even after the light and shadow changes, but I refer to my photo. Joy, thank you. That makes sense. A lot more than Googling. Yeah, you can chat GPT it, but I don't know if you'll get a good answer. Chat GPT did recommend a viewer to become a viewer. That's linked to my channel apparently, so it's doing a good job, I guess. Mr. Mine, I've been following you for maybe a week. As far as I know, I want to ask, are we going to hear some of your stories? What stories do you want to hear? Let me know. I have a lot of stories. About the art journey and so on. Yeah, you can ask me questions about my art journey for sure, and I'll give you some interesting tidbits. You got it, Gaga. Pierre, I've seen so many incredibly accomplished, technically brilliant watercolors of late, but not one single piece of art. Maybe we should follow the lead and tip a banana to a wall. Yeah, that's a surefire way of telling a story. Banana to a wall. I'm gonna draw a face on the banana first. Nothing too complex, mind you. Maybe a laughing emoji, and then tape it to the wall. Yeah. Sometimes I get this feeling with some artists. I'm not going to mention names because it can be anyone at different points, where the paintings... First off, I think there are a lot of technically brilliant painters who do make art. I'm seeing a lot of them every day, but... I kind of know what you mean in terms of some artists seem to be really good at rendering what they see. Just as simple as that. And it's very similar to the actual subject in a way that's very technically proficient. That to the point that it almost feels like the style is transparent. You know what I mean? There's no quirkiness to it. There's no uniqueness to it. And it's almost impressive because they're able to just paint the thing like it is. Not necessarily as detailed. Some of it is simplified, of course. Some of it is detailed, you know. But if anything, the paintings that are hyper detailed, I end up seeing more personal touch than the simplified yet carbon copies, if that makes sense. So yeah, I get what you mean. Sometimes I feel I'm lacking that uniqueness that I can tell it's been done by a specific artist. There aren't many artists like this, but there are quite a few, and it's very impressive. You know, very technically proficient. But I lack this kind of the style feels transparent. That's the only way I can say it. You know, but yep. Barbara, your amazing rooftops. How do you decide which rooftop building to keep, eliminate, ignore? The size, color, shape. You mentioned the interesting color. The decision drives me crazy. Yeah, for the rooftops painting, I ended up drawing every rooftop. It didn't feel like too much, so I just drew all of them, all of the rooftops in the frame. The place where I made changes was how detailed every rooftop was. And that's something I'll often do. You know, if something feels like it's not too detailed, I'll include everything. But then the details within the big shapes is where I'll do some minimization, if that's a word. But yeah, if you want to take a more... So I'll say if I want to take a looser approach where I just kind of draw it real fast, whether it's plein air, that happens usually in plein air, and I really just kind of go crazy and eliminate some stuff and draw, then I actually don't have a good answer for that. I go with what I feel like at the moment. If I see a rooftop that looks interesting, I know I'm including that. Sometimes I'll include the thing I love, and then I'll try and just sketch outwards from there, and whatever gets in the frame, gets in the frame. Whatever isn't is just reduced. Or removed. So yeah, I would say that it's a bit, you know, it's a bit hard to verbalize. And I think the thing that we do best is the things we can't verbalize in a way. Pierre, you're on. Your mess is the closest I've seen to art. Thank you so much. Do you refer to this one? Thank you so much. Much appreciated. I love this one. It was the first layer was done in probably, I wrote it down in the story that I posted. I think it was about 2 minutes, maybe even less, maybe 1 minute. It was like, how did I approach? Yeah, I started with the towers, or did I do the sky? I don't even remember. What did it look like? Oh, yeah, I remember. Okay, yeah. I just started putting in shapes, orange, yellow, blue, whatever, across this. Then I put in the sky, and it all kind of connected. Then I put these, while it was still wet, as you can tell, let it dry full in the water, let it dry fully, did a pretty much one layer that covered everything with different colors. And then I added a bit of opaque paint to bring out some of the oranges and extra details. I think total painting time, if I had to guess, about 15 minutes. Not exaggerating. This one was fast. It's small, too. You know, it's a very small piece of paper. But yeah, thank you. Yeah, I love this one. I'm very happy with it. Joy or Mess looks better than my best painting. Yeah, I think maybe you're underselling yourself, Joy. Pam, instinct is still based on existing knowledge, knowing what to do when, in my experience. Not sure. I don't know. The instinct I talk about is not the one that's based on knowledge. I think the existing knowledge is what... It's almost like the machine. The machine, physically, your hand that just does the thing. But the instinct I talk about almost doesn't need that machine to do anything. And it doesn't need knowledge as well. I would argue it's the same instinct that a kid has when they paint. Something to think about. That's how I feel about it. It's interesting. J Boo, I used to draw on Ibis Paint and Sketchbook on my tablet To blend the colors. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Ibis Paint. Yeah, I think I tried it once. I'm not sure. You got it, John. Jennifer, I don't know why it was retracted. We'll get to your next message. Tony, hi from Vancouver. Ruth is here. Hello. Can't see her. Oh, there she goes. Tony, hi from Vancouver. It is just after 6 on a sunny morning. Thank you for providing a forum for artists around the world to toss around ideas and answer questions regarding watercolor painting. Cool, yep, it's my pleasure. Thank you for being here. It's an honor to be able to assemble such a forum for us artists. Jennifer, good morning, Liron. I'm having trouble with choosing backgrounds for still lives, complements of subject, texture, etc. Should I do the background first? Do you have any tips? Yeah, it's interesting. I find backgrounds to often be very counterintuitive. If I even show you this here, this is a good example, you know? I'm not sure if I prefer the orangey to the blue. I look at this and I have no idea. I think this, the warm works better than the cool because it's a bit closer to the vegetables, but I don't know sometimes why. Because sometimes the cool will work better even though the vegetables are similar colors. So it still baffles me to a point. I also have this other side. This, for example, I don't like this background. I feel like it's too weird. But this one I really like. Let's see if I have another example here. See, I don't like any background here. So the way I usually do it, I'll look at a reference and I'll use whatever background is there. Unless I can tell before I get started that I'll dislike the color, then I won't use it. But for the most part, I just go with the color I see there and almost hope that it will work out. And if it doesn't, I'll maybe do another attempt. You know, textures and so on. I don't do too many textures. It's a good question. I ultimately I think the best way to find that out would be to choose a specific subject and do a few attempts and just change the background and see for a specific subject, color, shape, what background works best in your opinion. Almost, you know. And if you want to send me a few examples, I can tell you, oh, this one feels the best to me. But again, a lot of it could be taste, so that's not necessarily an answer that will come from outside. I think it's more about seeing the different options and finding out which one of them you prefer the most. I'm not an expert in textures, actually. I don't do much of them. I almost feel like the texture will come naturally out of the value, color, and shape even. But yeah, I think that's the best I can do. It's not much. Hopefully it helps. Chris, question. Watercolor and handwriting are similar. Both are your innate style. But what if you don't like your watercolor style? For me, it is too detailed and precise, and I struggle to paint looser. Help. I would just say that it's just not your style. I don't think it's your style. If you don't like it, it's not your style. It could be the result you get at this point in time, which is fair, you know. That's where you are based on the things you practiced doing and the influences that you saw, you know, wherever around you by other artists. But I would say if your style is too detailed and precise and you struggle to paint looser, there's somewhere in there the need and want to paint looser. So I think that actually is your style. And I think the real question is, what interferes with just you painting your style? That's a good question to ask. If you want to paint one way, you end up doing it another way. What interferes? What stops you from painting in that looser style you want? That's not an easy question to answer. I don't expect you to have an answer right now at all. it's something I would almost rather you don't think about answering, but just let the question register and then leave it. The answer will arrive somehow, but I wouldn't try to answer it logically. Okay? I hope that points you in the right direction. I feel like it's a solid direction to check out and examine. Adria, something I do is I have a little watercolor journal that I allow myself to experiment in and not worry what's in it. Using it to prep for an actual piece, swatching and such. Yeah, that's a great approach. Whatever works with the way your artistic mind works, you know? I find that I can just grab any random piece of paper and just play around with it. Some people find that they need to have a dedicated place for that, and I think it's wonderful, you know? Hillel will translate, and then I'll answer both Hebrew and English. Are you ready? היי, שאלה, אתה מצליח להתפרנס רק מאמנות? אם כן, איך? בגדול, אני הבנתי שהדבר היותר פשוט זה למכור את הידע שלי. ובגלל זה התחלתי מלכתוב ספרים על לימוד ציור, ואז לאט לאט זה התגלגל ליוטיוב ולימוד צבעי מים. בהתחלה זה התחיל מרישום, ציור, עיפרון וכאלה. אנשים רוצים ללמוד. למכור אמנות זה סוג שונה של מחירה. ועם הזמן אני מאמין שזה ימשיך לגדול. אבל את רוב ההכנסה שלי אני עושה מללמד. זאת התשובה. מללמד, למכור קורסים דיגיטליים, קורסים קיימים. לא ללמד אחד על אחד או בזמן אמת, מה שנקרא. That's my answer. Translate to English. Hillel asks if I can make a living just from art, and if yes, how? The answer is yes. I'm very grateful to myself, mostly, that I'm able to make a living, a full-time living from my art. Not a millionaire, but definitely making a living off it. I understood very early on that selling paintings is one skill and selling knowledge is a different skill. And I think my wiring was very natural to me, and I love teaching and explaining things and breaking down ideas. My wiring very naturally landed itself to teaching and selling the information and knowledge. So most of my income is definitely from selling my knowledge. So that's the courses that people buy. It is selling the books on Amazon. You know, even I would say Patreon is not a good example, but yeah, some income is from Patreon, some courses on Udemy. And then there's the YouTube ads revenue, which is a little, but it's still nice. And then there's the art itself. And that part has been growing relatively gradually. Last year was probably my best in terms of art sales, I think, except for maybe when I sold in the art fair. And then this year it's kind of settled, decreased, and maybe will increase again. We'll see. But yeah, that's the answer to the question. הילה, I'm going to say in Hebrew, פספסתי איזה חלק, רק אמרתי גם מחירות קורסים דיגיטליים, שזה מישהו קונה קורס, גם מהמודעות יוטיוב, גם מפטריון, וגם מהציורים. שזה חלק לא גדול מההכנסה, אבל הוא קיים, והוא גם עולה עם הזמן. That's the answer. Pierre, people keep taking the banana, a $120,000 artwork. Oh, I thought it's worth more than that. That's very little. Off the wall and eating it, then duct taping the skin back. Oh, and then it's gonna turn like weird brown. It's funny. Yeah, let's see here. Oh, Steve's here. Oh, sorry. I'll have to move down the. Let me see what you're saying here. Oh, you're saying hi to people, so that's great. Backgrounds can be so elusive. I usually never know what I'm going to do. I just try something, hope it works out. Is my patterns as well. Yep. I get it completely, and I think the best example for it is your spontaneous paintings. That's where you see it, you know. And you know what's funny? When you place down a shape, and I've seen you do this, Steve. When you place down a shape, you can already look at it and tell if it's working or not. And then you just bring the color you want to move it closer to and put it over it because it's still wet, right? So you put a warm, it doesn't work. You put in a cool over it, it cools it down a bit. Then you're like, oh, that looks better. when you're so caught up, that's something I see many people do. When someone's so caught up on what the right thing to do is, they end up not looking at the paper and seeing for themselves what the right thing to do is, just based on what it looks like. So I think it's a rabbit hole that goes really deep. I think people have no idea just how torn away from the process they are. They can still make like good paintings and interesting paintings and have successes, and I don't want to say happy accidents, but just because it's not an accident, you did it on purpose, but like a stroke of almost luck where everything connects nicely, and then it's a matter of maybe 1 in 20. When if you just look at what's going on, you can easily make it 1 in 5 that you love, you know. So yeah, great insights. John Liron, I recently mixed white gouache with watercolor. Once dried, I tried to paint shadows over it. However, the gouache mix started to lift off when applying shadows. Why is this happening? That's a great question. I'm trying to think if I had that happen. Yes, I had that happen to me as well. John, I'm actually not sure. It happens. I'm not sure if it. So with the gouache, it does happen. With this June Brilliant PWC, Shinhan PWC watercolor paint, I believe it doesn't happen as much. So maybe it's in the gouache. Maybe the gouache re-wets for some reason. I've had that experience as well. Or what could be is it re-wets just like any other color, but because it's an opaque light color, it's more visible because the wetness immediately neutralizes it. I'm not sure actually, but you know what that says? Maybe glazing shadow over gouache is a bit tricky. You know what I mean? So I would put the gouache only where necessary and almost negatively paint around the shadows, which is funny because in watercolor we tend to negatively paint around the highlights. But that's almost thinking about it the other way around. So you'll paint negatively around the shadows, and then you'll put the shadows on the layer that was previously before the gouache, if that makes sense. Yeah. Marjorie, now I can mail package some things well loved. Oh, thank you so much, Marjorie. I really appreciate it. My Mission Gold Field Palette. Oh, I have to try these out. Thank you so much. Favorite large brush, handmade paints, and Yin MN Blue Simple. Wow. Marjorie, thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I will let you know on my end as soon as I get it. Raymond, hey Liron, what paper do you recommend for beginners? Also, are pens okay or tubes? Both are okay, you know. Tubes I find easier to work with, re-wet a little easier, more cost effective, but pens are okay if you have access to a better brand. I would go with the pens. Brand over pens or tubes, I'd definitely go with the pens of the better brand. It doesn't matter really as much. As for paper, I would just try out a bunch of stuff. You know, I would say as a beginner, just get the best paper you can. Even if it's expensive, it's worth it. 100% cotton. The cheapest one you can get that's 100% cotton, acid-free, etc., etc. That's what I would get, actually. It depends on your area and what's available there. To me, Arch, Saunders, Waterford, Bao Hong, and then like a close fourth, Fabriano. All work well. Barbara thinks that was useful. Happy to hear. Let's see. I just want to make sure I don't miss something important there at the bottom of the chat. Steve, if you're here, I would just send you a link, but I'm using OBS. It's a bit of a crap storm to bring guests on. Otherwise, I just shoot you a link and tell you to join. Maybe next time we can do that. But yeah, let me know, or let me and everyone else here know if there's anything interesting you're working on. Feel free to share. I'm curious to see and hear about it. Pam, interesting. Yes, kids just freely express themselves. Yeah, there's a lot about it. Marjorie, before I discovered your vlogs, I watched too many selling, testing art supplies and spent. Yeah, I enjoy these videos too from time to time. Then I'm watching you. I began to focus on the painting and started to find my style. So thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. Yep, it's almost never about the art supplies. Even the cheapest, lamest, bad quality art supplies, while they may work against you, Nothing can beat the artist. Nothing. Nothing. You can make art out of anything. Anything. Including a banana taped to a wall. Nat, hello. Any tips for someone like me, a beginner watercolor artist with less brushes? What should I do? Honestly, I have so many brushes and I end up using like 5, 4, and usually it's the same 2 for most paintings. So you don't need more than 1. But yeah, if you're like a complete beginner, experience the medium. Let it guide you. That's what I would say. I have a good idea. I'm gonna write it down. I have a great idea, actually, that connects to the sentence I just said. I have to write it down. Yeah, it's that important. I have to type it. Got it. Got it. I got the idea. Those kinds of things you have to immediately write down or they'll escape. Malia, hello. Is your setup different for plein air paintings as compared to your studio? Yeah, very different. It has to be. I use a different palette that has a ring for the thumb to hold it. I have an easel that after a lot of experimentation, that works well for me. I have this weird water cup that has some wires on it so I can hang it on the easel. Very different. Yeah, a lot of clamps and, what do you call these things? I forget. Clamps, I guess, to hold everything so that the wind doesn't blow it away. So it's quite different. I actually have a video on the plein air setup. You can check it out. I show all of the things that I feel like are important. I'm gonna jump back and forth a bit. Steve says, no worries, nothing new, just standard stuff right now. I could paint almost anything with one size. Yeah, that's so true. Brush selections isn't terribly up. Yep, I can totally relate. Ink to art. Hey, buddy, just jumped on to say hi and love your paintings. All the best. Thank you so much. Thank you. Pam, maybe a better word is innate approach. Yep. That feels right. Rachel, the instinct sounds like the subconscious mind. Yes, whatever it is, I don't even want to put a name on it. It's there. That's the most important thing. It's there and you can't escape it, which is a good thing. It's just there. It's there when you remove everything. Mr. Mine, you previously talked about how your art doesn't have uniqueness into it. I'm not a master, but it looks really beautiful. But what I like about your attitude is you're so open to hop on to learn different art styles and just to learn different art styles and never and just don't give up on learning it. Yeah, thank you. No, I feel like my style does have uniqueness to it, but there are a lot of people I see who are more proficient technically than me, by the way, where the style feels a little transparent. I don't know. It's hard to explain. But yeah. Hey, Sujanith. Thank you for being here. Stephanie, good morning. Liron from small town Illinois. I'm getting ready for my first outdoor market of the season this weekend. Looks like there are some fellow minders out here too. Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. Enjoy it. I love these events, at some point, I had a bit of a love-hate relationship with it because it's very easy to get frustrated when you don't sell enough, but then get very elated when you do. And it's just all two sides of the same coin, where it's more about the experience, I think, and communicating with people around your art. I mean, that's every artist's dream. So yeah, have fun. Outdoors market. I just decided that it's art, but I don't know if it could be any other market. So let me know. Alex, are you attending any art events this year? I'm not a big art events guy. I guess if I lived close to maybe if I were in the US or UK or some places in Europe where there are a lot of these. Honestly, there are art and watercolor events here locally, and I just don't go really. I don't know. It's rare for me to go. I used to have like a watercolor group. We do meetups and stuff, but haven't done that in a long time. Marjorie, for me as an oil painter, I found that teaching adult classes made me more money per hour than I ever made selling paintings. Yeah, selling is just for some people, selling the knowledge and the teaching. I think it's a little more direct, I feel like, than art. Ideally, I would like the percentage from selling art to grow. And I think I'm slowly figuring that out too. Hopefully, in a year or two, I'll have some new insights on that. Feel like I'm really moving in the right direction there, actually. Painting something as being out of focus was easy for me in oil, but watercolor, no. Yeah, it's a completely different experience, right? So funny how that works. You got it, John. Hank, how are you doing? Made it. Listening with great interest. Cool. Yeah. This is just a fun one. I'm gonna have a hard exit from this live stream in 40 minutes. In whatever it is, there it's gonna be 10:30 Eastern. Because it's a holiday evening today, so we're going to family. So just saying until then, it's just chill, relaxation, talk about whatever you want. Regarding the art journey, the watercolor journey. Yeah. So very happy to have you here, Hank. Nat, any tips for someone that doesn't want to use references because they're too stubborn? That's actually great. Don't use references. I sometimes like to experiment with just painting from what comes to me. The good thing about it is, it's very easy to say, well, if I don't have a reference, how am I going to paint? Actually, it doesn't really matter. You can just paint from imagination because if you do that enough, like every other skill, your imagination will start providing you with more imagery to paint. It will grow and improve. So I would say practice the thing you want to do more of. The tip for you would be to paint without reference. You know what you want, you already know the answer. It's just about doing it. Artistic Ren, I wonder if you could use white casein paint instead of gouache. Once dry, casein will not lift like gouache. Interesting. And will you be able to glaze over it, or does it have a funny texture to it? I have no idea how that works, casein. But if you can paint over it, I mean, that's a good solution, I guess. What about acrylics, by the way? Will acrylics lift? Because you can just use acrylics, I guess. Sujanith, Liron, after how many years of experience or at what stage of learning should artists change from small size painting to large one? I would say you can do that day one, whenever you feel like you want to paint large. The thing is, and that's what I think a lot of people miss, the entire purpose, I think, of art is the complete freedom that comes with it. So if you're fully free, hypothetically speaking, as soon as you have an inkling of an idea of maybe wanting to try painting large, what's the path of least resistance if you're fully free? What is it? Just grab a large piece of paper and you try it out. You don't even have to watch how-tos. You don't have to learn anything. You just have to do it. Whatever will happen there will happen, and that'll maybe inform your future creations, but just there's no stage. You do it whenever you want to. Alberto, hi Liron, good morning. Someday you could talk to us about paper. A hug from Bogota. Thank you so much. Yeah, would love it. I think actually Steve has one of the best videos on different watercolor papers on YouTube. Dare I say? I think it's the best comparison I've ever seen between different types. So I would actually go to Steve's channel and find that video. Sujanith Bao for us here in UAE as expensive as Arthur Saunders. Oh, that sucks. I mean, if it's easier to get there, it should be at least a little cheaper. Yeah, it's great paper. I loved Bao from what I've tried. Tembo artwork. The pigments in white stay on top of the paper. It moves as soon as it's re-wet. Interesting. And that applies to both gouache and other colors? How would that work, Hank, I haven't yet used balking. Oh, wait. Maybe I have once. But I don't remember. So I can't really say. Not sure. Flobby Bobby, yes, cut alive. Hello, how are you? I'm doing well. Sorry, my reaction is probably delayed by the time I get to the chat. Yeah, definitely, Steve. You got it. It's one of the best videos I've ever seen on paper. Um, it just shows it so clearly. You know, one big problem it solves is for people who feel like they're going crazy, they're going insane. Like, why does this happen in this kind of paper? Am I losing it? Am I going crazy, or is it the paper? And a lot of people ask the question of, is it me or is it the paper? And very often the question is, it's you. It's not the paper. Sometimes the answer is it's the paper. So for those instances, you want to tell the person you're not going crazy. It's a terrible paper, and whenever you try to glaze on top of it, it's always going to reawaken the layer underneath because it's pulp. It's just not meant for that. By the way, pulp paper is great if you just paint the final thing directly. Get the right value, right color immediately, never touch it again. It's great. But yeah. What's casein? I wish I could answer that. I don't even know. Or wait, I know. Casein is. Wait. I know what it is, but let me make sure. Yeah, it's just gonna be paint based on casein, right? Casein is milk protein. I think it is. So I guess there's paint based on that. There's paint based on everything. You got it, Raymond. Thank you so much, John. Yeah, if you can leave a like on the video, that would be greatly appreciated. I'm now at 49 likes, at least from what I can see. 49 likes, much appreciated. Oh, I missed Steve. Maybe I should just record YouTube videos instead, and then have more free time on my life. Keep up the good work. You always give us plenty to think about. Yep. One thing I will say about recording, and I have messaged someone on Instagram about this, filming yourself painting, to me, it actually proved very useful over the years. I think I underestimated how much I learned from that. And, it's almost like you're experiencing the painting process again, and you keep seeing a lot of things you would do differently. A lot of things where, I was a little too late on the timing here. I was, whatever. So it's very interesting how that works. And now that I started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's it's interesting. I would love to see myself getting smashed, basically, and being turned into a pancake. That's what happens every class. Maybe I'll get some insights from it. It's funny. Yes. Adrian, I'm attached to my Pentel water brush as far as brushes go. I love them. Pentel water brushes, they're cool. I had a flat one once. It's very tricky to use, and I tried using it on rough paper. It was tough. But for hot press or smooth, it's better. So Janith, I recently bought this Magnani. I don't know how Magnani. How would you pronounce that? Italy watercolor paper. It seems very good and a bit cheaper than ours. Interesting. I would be curious to hear more about it as you experiment with it more. Maybe we'll have a new competitor, Steve, for Mind of Watercolor. To everyone, Liron is a model example of a good watercolor student. We're all students, by the way, of course, yes. He values experiential study and discovery. So, yeah, that's so important. And actually, at some point, I discovered that's all I have left. Maybe you can relate to this, Steven, and everyone who's been consistent in painting, that's why I think it's rare that I won't have inspiration to sit down and paint, because if I were to just rely on other tutorials and maybe master studies, at some point I just won't have any energy to do that anymore, because it empties my energy, unlike painting just based on whatever is the thing I'm experimenting with. So at some junctions, I find that's really the only way I have to move into. That's the only thing that really gives me the satisfaction. It can be a little frustrating if you don't notice it, and you end up doing a lot of things that end up taking more energy than giving artistically. It's such a weird thing, because you think, I sit down and paint. By default, I'm doing something creative, and it's true. I think if you barely do it, whatever you do as you paint, you can try and do a replica of someone else's work. And if you do it once a month or two, it will feel like, floating on a cloud. But if you do it every single day, at some point, I don't know, in me at least, something yearned for that. The thing that's within me and not really from the outside, it just would be very difficult to continue being very deliberate and from the outside inwards. The thing that would work better for me is trying to discover and experiment with what comes out naturally almost. And that will, in the beginning, lead to inferior results if you're not used to doing it. But it is a necessary change. It was a necessary change for me many times. Adria, good thing I got up early and made the live on time. Yeah, thank you for being here once again. Stephanie, it's a farmer's market actually, but there are a few other artists and makers there too. I find farmer market are half sales and half marketing. It's fun getting to talk to people about my art. Yeah, okay, so are you gonna do art there? Here? Yep. So are you coming there as a farmer or as an artist? That would be my next question. And it's interesting for me to think, will art do better in a farmer's market than in an art market? Because maybe it's more unique or less of it. I'm curious. I wonder if there's some kind of a correlation there. Nancy, enjoy your get-together with family. I thought it looks like you have going out here. Yep, I'm dressed so that I can, as soon as I'm done, get up and go, so I can cut as close to the live stream finishing time. Yep, nice, you caught it. Charnel, how are you doing? Hi, Liron. How are you? How's Ruth? We're doing well. He's not here. A little snob. We're doing really well. Thank you so much. You got it, Steve, for the shout out. Flobby Bobby, do you have any sketching? I actually did. Where did I think I threw it somewhere there. Let me see. I did a manga sketch. It's gonna be hard to get it now, but maybe I'll show it in a future live stream. But I think these answer the category of sketches. It's just watercolor sketches. This avocado, I started with this attempt, and then I realized I didn't capture the seed or whatever the exact way I wanted. Then I did this new and improved. See, that really is how I pictured it should look like. So yeah, quite happy with that. But yeah, I have a bunch of sketches here. Again, if you would call these sketches, I have this one I showed earlier. Maybe you saw it. And I have this one. This is going to be a video. It's going to be out. Wait, where can you see it? Can you see it here? Good. Going to be out Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. Very happy with this one. Yeah, I had a good streak of kind of random things that worked out. Adria, I appreciated Steve's video comparing pulp paper versus cotton. Made me see why I hated Strathmore 400. Yeah, Strathmore, oof, it was rough. I made some really nice paintings on Strathmore 400, but it has its limitations, for sure. Marjorie, my aunt, a noted artist in her area, is still driving to take art classes. She's 90. We're always students. Yep, amazing. One thing that's great about art, I think, is that it can be done for it's good. It has longevity, can be done for years and decades. Try Temu for Bauhong paper. I don't know what Temu is. Let's see. Temu. I don't know what it is. Let me know. Artistic rain, okay. Casein is painted is made from milk protein. It is ancient. James Gurney uses oh really? He uses casein. Yeah. Marjorie, bought a paper reference to or referred to as soft. Haven't tried. If Steve's still here, have you tried? You mean soft press? I don't have it, but I've heard it's between hot and cold press. Interesting. A little texture, but not a lot. Fabriano has some, I think. Yeah, I have a feeling I tried something similar by Fabriano. Interesting. Soft press. Yeah, I think I heard that before, once or twice. Tambo, that applies to gouache and watercolor paint. There are many waterproof options. Interesting. Okay, good to know. Laura, good morning, evening, everyone. Uh, Stephanie did jujitsu for about 6 years, but 2 kids later, I'm still a blue belt and don't really train anymore. Definitely a great teacher for dealing with adversity, though. Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I would. It would be amazing if I ever become a blue belt. I'll be mind blown. You know, a big part of I don't think I really shared, but I never really felt athletic ever. Um, and part of doing jujitsu is just trying to prove to myself that I can reach a level of competence and control of my body that I honestly never had. So I really couldn't care about belts in a way. Um, I really want to just feel that, being in good control of my body, and of course the self defense aspect of it. Definitely more than the competitive aspect. I don't think I care about that as much. Um, but attaining a blue belt would feel amazing just because in a way it is like an outside stamp of approval that I'm actually competent in something physical that I was never had it before. So it's a big part of why I went and did and started. But yeah, I have a long road for blue belt. But yeah, I think it's funny because right now I tell myself if I ever get to a blue belt, I couldn't care less about any of the following belts. It's like it's a yes or no for me. Yes, I got this stamp and that's it. But who knows? Maybe if I ever get the blue belt, I'll be like, oh, I really want the purple one. But I don't know. Yeah, but it's great. It's great. Yeah, blue. It's impressive. Your blue belt. It means you're in it. It's part of your life, even if you quit. Hi Lethan, I love your eyes, freaking deep and soulful. Thank you so much. That's a great compliment. Maybe the best one, or maybe most unique one I got here on the live stream. Jane Hopper. I guess it's a real name, but yeah, Jane Hopper. Jane Hopper. It's 11. Yeah, I was like, wait, that name is familiar. Her name was Jane, and Jim Hopper. Yeah, I made the connection. Yeah, the last season was great. Stranger Things, if anyone hasn't watched. Tembo, experimenting keeps pushing me forward. I try one thing and it sparks new ideas. Yep, that's how it works. Nancy, videotaping myself painting. Never thought of that. Interesting. Yes, yes. I think it has great potential to show you a lot of things. Not even, I wouldn't obsess over it. I wouldn't necessarily, watch it immediately after. But I'll just document it, and then whenever I feel like, I'll just take one of the videos and examine them. And I wouldn't look for anything specific. The only thing I would look for is things that make me, as an onlooker, or like a bystander to the process now, because I'm looking at a video. What thing just sticks out or stands out to me that I'm like, oh, wait, why did I do that? Or, oh, I completely missed something else. Maybe something like that. That's the thing I would maybe look for. But I feel like it has to be natural, right? You can't really force it. I wouldn't look for things to improve actively, that is. Stephanie, going to farmer's market as an artist. I sell a lot of my hand-painted cards, and bookmarks, and maybe a painting if I'm lucky. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Well, good luck with selling the art there. Yeah, that's really fun. It's just nice to have people see the work, whether they buy or not. People ask questions. People are curious. When I was just focused on, talking to people and communicating with them there, it was I had the best days. Those were the best days that I had in the art fair. It was really fun. A lot of the times I had someone with me. Not a lot of the times, maybe 50, which is still a lot. 40% of the time I had someone with me there, a friend or someone. It made it a lot more fun, actually. Marjorie, Steve, yep, I've been to incapacitated to try. Well, incapacitated. I don't know. I'm not sure. Sometimes I read words and I'm not sure if it's a word I'm not familiar with, or a word that does not exist, or a typo. The anchor. Hi, do you remember me? Yes, I'm pretty sure I remember you, but it's been a while, right? Now, is there anything in particular that I should remember? Because I remember the username and the profile pic. If there's anything I'm missing, you let me know. Marjorie, my daughter, took jiu-jitsu from Master Sang Lee before he became Olympic coach. Ooh, that's fun. Let's see if I know who that person is. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not in the scene. That's the problem. Yeah, just my yeah. So I remember you, of course. It's funny. Yeah, it's I actually I don't know how well it translates to online, but what I find is I'm really good at remembering faces. I've always been that way. Um, when I was in Tel Aviv, and I would just walk around the city, I would recognize a person that was with me in high school, like a decade and a half after after that. It's crazy. It's crazy to think about it. Yeah, I almost never forget faces. Now, does it translate to usernames and profile pictures? Not sure. Not sure. Yeah. Let's see. Or anything interesting that I want to bring up. I think just to touch upon the what makes a great piece of art. It's very hard to give a clear-cut answer to that. But what I will say, then we'll start moving towards. We have 15 more minutes, but we'll see what happens in the chat. What I will say about that is, once again, that idea of removing a lot of the interference, removing the thing that stops you from painting the way you want, or trying to do the experimentation that you want. Whether it's the techniques, the size of paper that was mentioned here a couple of times. I think what's left once you remove all interference is that it's your style, it's the clean creation, and maybe you're at a point that it's not fully technically solid, but that's a gap that's easy to close. Because if there's no interference, you'll create something very, I think, clean and clear, and the opposite of a transparent style. It will be so clear that you made it. It will be so obvious. And then the refinement is almost secondary, and it will come as a byproduct, because in order to fully execute the painting upon your vision, you just need to build those skills up, right? It's almost like the skill is a byproduct, there's this great line I hear a lot from the same guy, the Kapil Gupta guy. He says that performance is a byproduct. And I love that, because whenever you try to perform well, whether it's art, sports, anything really, it's almost like looking in the wrong direction. The performance is a byproduct of something else, of knowing why you're there competing, or why you're there creating, or why you're there doing the thing that you're doing. And I think it's a very interesting perspective to think about. So that kind of connects to the whole, what makes a piece of art great, in my opinion. And sometimes I'll make something that I really like, and other people don't as much, and that's to me a great sign that that there's actually something real there, because I'm not trying to placate anyone else. I'm just creating by following the path of least resistance for me personally, if that makes sense. I hope it does. Adria, yeah, I'm good at remembering faces too. Yeah, I just never forget. The inker, should I study anatomy and watercolor in day to day? It's really frustrating. Why is it frustrating to you? What do you go through? What's the friction there? I would be curious to hear. Um, I think just studying. Study is something that I use this word too, but words are inevitable. But studying is almost something you do for school or for a degree. So um, maybe you shouldn't study. Maybe you should just experiment, try, do. And the fact that I'm telling you maybe that's what you should do doesn't necessarily um, isn't necessarily going to solve that frustration for you, um, because you'll have to figure out what the thing is that doesn't work, right? If that makes sense. Hearing me say it, the best thing I can do is maybe inspire you to look into it. But at the end of the day, I can't tell anyone to not feel frustrated, not worry. Whenever you read these listicles, basically, articles that tell you how to deal with anything that is a little more creative, artistic, mental, I hope I never did anything like that, but I could have. I'm not sure. But, the don't be afraid of, focus on, think about. All of these things, very often they won't go anywhere. I'm sure I gave some advice like that before. Now, if it's a personalized advice based on what someone tells me, that's different. But as a general article for the general public to read, and even when I use a bit of a clickbaity title like "Stop doing this" or "Don't do that" or whatever, give this a try. I try to at least give the nuance in the video of this is something to take through your own filter and figure out how it works for you, if at all. But I think, telling someone to you shouldn't feel frustrated about X, Y, Z, it doesn't really work, So I try, at least in recent months, to not do that. It's more about shedding light on the problem and then you go and solve it. But yeah, it's you'll have to dig deeper, like what's frustrating about it. I'm studying anatomy right now because I start experimenting anatomy in the morning and evening watercolor. I don't have time management. Yeah, so if you hate something, life's too short to do it. At some point, I took a huge break almost from anatomy because I felt like I peaked somewhere good enough for now. I'll probably revisit some ideas in the future, but honestly, at some point, enough is enough. What am I gonna? My goal isn't to become a professional anatomy sketcher, and that's the only thing I do. So as long as it serves my purpose, it's very important if you ultimately want to get to the place you want to get to, and only you know what that place is, and only you can figure it out. To notice whenever you're getting sidetracked by almost, if you play video games, it's a secondary quest, So you want to improve the way you paint people, so you do a bit of anatomy studies, but then before you know it, you end up, that becomes the goal, and then you forget about your original goal to paint. And then that can brew frustration because you end up doing something that started as a means to an end, and it ends up being an end without you realizing that you made it your end. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. I say that a lot today, so maybe I'm talking weird, speaking strangely today. Adrian, I kind of remember everything in detail. I learned some people can't visually picture things in their mind. It was mind blown. What's funny? I feel like even as an artist, as a visual artist, sometimes the picture I can picture things really well, but it's sometimes very vague. So if it's something like a 3D box or something very geometrically solid, I can visualize it pretty well. But anything that's a painting, a scene, very hard for me to see it in details. It's usually very vague. And I think I just haven't really tried enough to even develop the skill to zoom in almost and see more details. But yeah, it's interesting. Nancy, you do very well deciphering your followers' words and thoughts. I'm doing my best, I'm relying on very limited information, obviously. But yeah, thank you. Happy that I can help some in that way. Jane, my perfectionist mindset holds me back. Yeah, it's interesting where the perfectionism comes from. I'll just say that. If something keeps happening to you and it leads to an undesired effect, you almost have to wonder, what do you gain from that? What does, in your example, what does your perfectionism give you? And I'm asking this as a very, it's not a trick question, it's a very genuine question. What do you gain by being a perfectionist? I think once you understand that, maybe you can weigh that benefit against the benefit of letting go, maybe, of that perfectionism, right? And no one really thinks about things that way. But there's a reason you do that. And there's a very real reason. I'm actually very serious. And it's an interesting question. What do you gain from it? Without knowing what you gain from it, you have no idea what you'll need on the other side in order to trade it in, so to speak. But yeah. Lauren, I'll join your thanks. The Mind of Watercolor. Steve, just wanted to thank you for all your videos. I've been working on loosening up my paintings and find practicing spontaneous pieces is helpful. Is helping. Yeah, and I feel the same. Yeah, that was great help for me. It was really big for me to discover spontaneous painting, and then I also like to do spontaneous sketching altogether. Anyway, even if an art piece isn't exactly my thing, I always can learn something from it. Good. Dazzling Action. What do you think about overly rendered watercolor to the point it's like gouache paint? I mean, it can go either way. I actually like some. I think it will depend more on the overall style and approach and vision of the artist. So I could see some examples of that I won't like as much, and then others that I will. When you look at this thing, as spontaneous as it is, it's very rendered with opaque paint. So it's almost like a gouache in a way. Or maybe acrylics. It's completely different on the other hand, because this is flow. But yeah, it will really depend on the style, Sujanith, enjoy your evening out. Thanks for this chat. Very interesting. Thank you, Sujanith. Joey Best, perfectionism comes from insecurity. Breen Brown is awesome to listen to. Highly, highly recommend. So yeah, that's the thing is, I don't think that is relevant to everyone. I'm sure there are a lot of people where it comes from insecurity, a way of, preventing yourself from trying, kind of, so you don't have to fail and all of that. Some people may find out that they're just a perfectionist. There's nothing wrong with that. And then they tailor their creation to that, If someone discovers, they explore their perfectionism and they discover that they just really want to create something grand. And if it's not grand, they don't want to create it. If you really stop trying to change that, you don't even try to accept it, by the way. Accepting it is still reacting to it. Just do nothing with it, Just understanding that maybe it's an inherent part of you, that may be enough. Maybe suddenly you'll be bursting with flows of motivation and energy to paint highly detailed, very perfectionistic paintings, Maybe. Some people may be that. I think everyone has a different angle to perfectionism. I think it's very personal, very deep. And I think any attempt to change that without understanding it will fail. To change meaning, a person tries to change to be less perfectionist, to try and not be as perfectionist. I don't think it'll work, Artistic Ren, my sketchbook is where I let go of my perfectionism. Yeah, so that's a way to almost work with it. If you find that then when you paint on a paper, you have no perfectionism, it's perfect. The inker, I'm from South India. When school starts, I don't have much time for anatomy or watercolor. You know, every stage in life and what it brings. School, I didn't have time for anything. I studied way too hard. Ended up not using 90% of what I studied. And I could have made art in that time instead, that I didn't, but that's fine. OJR1331. I love watercolor because you can just leave it out. All you need is water. You can practice nonstop. Yeah, I love it. So direct and immediate and fun, you know? Jane, it makes me do things 100% like going up and beyond than what I originally thought I can. Focus. Okay, I can focus. I gain extreme focus, but it also frustrates me when it's not what I pictured it to be. And you know what? Maybe your problem is that you haven't figured out yet how to get it to be like the thing you pictured. You know, it could be so many things. But yeah, let me know. It's above the pay grade of this live stream, but feel free to send me an email, some examples maybe. Feel free to elaborate more. Maybe I can help in that way. Adria, I managed to harness the perfectionism with abstraction. I have a controlled chaos that's so satisfying, not stressful. Yeah, that's cool. The art materials here are costly. Yeah, the inker, and someone said, I believe, it was also from India, right? That the Bauhong paper is as expensive, or was it UAE? Yeah, it always surprises me when things are super expensive everywhere. Marjorie, letting go of perfectionism is why I tried watercolor. Haven't done for years, rather than continue with oils. Yep. Jennifer, what suggestions do you offer for loosening up in watercolor? Timed small paintings. Do you have any? Do you have suggestions? Yeah, it's interesting. I think there are so many ways to loosen up, and it's almost like finding your own switches. To me, it's just grabbing a random small scale thing and rendering it out. For some people, it could be getting a large overarching wash of a big scene. You know what's interesting? Can you think of an example of a time, even once, that you painted and you felt very loose and in the process, like, time disappeared, you just painted, been 30 minutes, an hour, you barely noticed? If that ever happened, I would look there. I would look there and see what was that all about, if that ever happened. Now, another interesting thing I've seen some people look into is, do you have anything else you do in life that when you do that, you're completely, out. You don't notice anything else. You're fully in it. Because that can also point you in the right direction. So it's very interesting, almost like it's almost like a skill transfer, from one area to another. But the skill is being fully in the moment and loose and all of that, So it's interesting. Thank you, Nancy. Steve, perfectionism is inherently imperfect. I waste time with it when I don't try to control it. I waste time with it when I don't try to control it. I'm not really learning when I'm a perfectionist. Yep. I feel the same way. It's almost like thinking of yourself as a robot that will manage to somehow roboticize your way through a perfect painting, and it just never happens. Big Hard Books and Classics. How have you been? I long to paint loosely. I really like the recent painting you did, Liron, of the building by the sea. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I believe it's that one, right? The one I just showed, I think. This one? Yep, that was fun. I'm not even sure I know where that is now that I think about it. I can check though. It's like talking to a friend. Yep. That's why I'm here. For these fun chats. Jane, the time I sketched my dog, animals, nature, that makes me relax. Playing my guitar and singing, I completely feel free in it. Couple of interesting things to check out, Maybe did you try painting outside in nature? Did you try listening to guitar music in particular that you like? There's a bunch of things there that can point you in the right direction. Because it's never about the thing. It's never about being rigid or being a perfectionist, or it's always beyond that. There's always something else that prevents you from doing the thing you want, and it's usually not necessarily the thing you're almost trained to look at. We're almost trained to look always in the wrong direction, no matter what. You know what I mean? But you can find the switch somewhere over there. You would never imagine it's there. You flip it there, it solves all of your problems. It really does. So it's interesting. It's interesting. Perfectionism is often an attempt to correct something. Substitute perfectionism with problem solving. Yeah, that's another way of almost like shifting the perspective in a way. Just seeing it from a different angle. That can sometimes work. I think from my personal experience, sometimes I'm able to do that, sometimes not, depending on like what the specific subset of perfectionism I was acting from. You know, it's funny to say it that way, but yeah. Today, Epic free game is releasing. Which one? Not that I have much time for another one, but I wonder. Liron, that spontaneous painting has such an appealing freshness. Thank you. Yeah, that was exactly it. I tried dumping everything else and just keeping that. So yeah, you should have seen the first watch. It was so funny. I think I have a picture of it somewhere, maybe in the Instagram story. I'm happy I took that picture because I was like, just put shapes everywhere. Different shapes, different colors, let them kind of touch wherever. But yeah. Thank you. Mikolulu, what do you do with your fails? Bonfire, recycle, bin, or keep them for the lesson learned. If it's completely off the rails, and I see zero value in it, I'll turn it into test paper. I'll paint on the other side. But I do have everything here. I have two drawers almost here. You can't see it's outside of frame. One with experiments and paintings that worked, and another with ones that I don't feel like worked, and I keep both. So no bonfire. Like Death Stranding. Interesting. I may give it a look. You know, what did I just wanted to start playing? Oh yeah, I downloaded a whole collection of Halo video games, the Master Chief Collection, I think it's called. I'm making my way through the first one. Gotta take a while because I play very little. I thought Ruth was crying. Temor artwork. Most of my best paintings were a surprise. So in the moment, I don't remember how I did it. Exactly. That's your hint. Linda, when I was younger, I was much more of a perfectionist. But at one point, I realized imperfection is perfection. Then I would remind myself that, which helped me realize I was already good. Marjorie, found use for fails. Throw in blender with water. Pressing mold makes Christmas tree decorations. That's cool. Yeah, almost like paper mache, but from cotton. Stefan, sup everyone? Thank you for being here. I'm gonna wrap things up soon, but I think it was an interesting one. Buck, perfection is the word I was looking for. Perfection for the details. Yeah, that's a very common theme. I should probably address it in a separate video after I feel like I have the idea in my mind fully. Janae and family, have you tried digital art? Sorry if you've already answered. Yeah, no worries. I have done a few attempts. It was fun. I'm working on my manga digitally. It's a completely different style, but yeah, I've dabbled in it here and there. We'll probably explore it more in the future. I'm very much a traditional artist kind of thing, but yeah, I may dive a little deeper on the painting aspect of it too in the future. You could make a video of all your fails. Oh, there's many, trust me. Stefan, I was doing some painting last night. I feel like I hit a new milestone. What I'm struggling with most is value control. Introducing color got me noodling way too much. Yeah, that's a common theme. That's a small gap. It will get closed. With a bit of focus on that. That's actually a very almost technical, straightforward thing. I'm sure you'll close that gap. The fact that you recognized it is half of the solution, actually. I write on my fails. Oh, that's cool, Artistic Man. Notes about what didn't work, so I don't repeat it. Yep. That's a great take. Thank you, John. Thank you, Liron. Great live stream. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you. Stephen Howard. I'll have an eye out for the next one. Yeah, and you can watch it. We'll give it a second to reconnect. Reconnected. I think it's reconnected. You should hear me now. Yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate everyone here sticking around. We have we had a really nice audience and simultaneous watchers looking at the stream on my end. And yeah, I will see you in Saturday's video. It's gonna be a fun one. And I have a few cool videos set up already prepared for next week too. I had a wave of inspiration, so I filmed a bunch. Thank you, Janzard. Thank you, The Anchor. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Steve, for being here. Thank you, OJR. Much appreciated. We'll talk to you again soon. Take care. I will do my best to enjoy the holiday. Thank you.